In Joshua chapter 19, Joshua is continuing to cast lots for divvying up the promised land to the tribes that haven't yet received their land. And he casts the lot, and this time it goes to the tribe of Asher. And the people of Asher get all excited that they have their land. And the Bible, again, does a good job of telling us which cities are included and what the boundaries are. And one of the boundaries that they have is incredibly significant. The southern boundary of their land includes Mount Carmel. Do you remember what happened on Mount Carmel? Mount Carmel had been a place of tremendous idol worship, where false religions would go and worship their false gods. And the prophet Elijah decided to use that place that had been used to honor false gods as a place to show once and for all who the true God is, was, and will always be. So we challenged the prophets of Baal. Baal was a false god back then, and there were 450 prophets of Baal that Elijah challenged to a throwdown, in a sense. They went up to Mount Carmel, and the challenge was this: they were each supposed to build an altar, and an altar is something that back in the Old Testament times you would make a sacrifice on to your God, like usually an animal or some food or something like that. But the challenge would be they would each make an altar, build it to their God, and then they would take turns putting their altar on, or putting their animal on the altar, and then instead of setting it on fire like they normally would, they would pray to their God. And the God who answered by setting the sacrifice on fire would be proven to be the true God. And so that's what they decided to do. And Elijah, being the polite prophet that he was, decided to let the prophets of Baal go first. And so they went first. They built their altar. They put their animal in there. They didn't set it on fire, but instead they prayed to their God. Dear God, Baal, please send fire down from heaven so that Elijah knows that you are the true God. Nothing happened. So they tried again. And again, and again, and again, and again, and again. They even started cutting themselves and hurting themselves so that maybe their God would feel sorry for them. And it went on and on like this for a couple of hours, but there was no fire. It never came down. The sacrifice was still there, probably starting to smell pretty rotten. And Elijah said, okay, you guys, you take a break. You're exhausted. Let me try. And so Elijah sets up his altar, and then he asks for some help from the other guys who were there. He asked them to dig a trench around the altar and dump, once they put the sacrifice on the altar, to cover it with so much water that the water would overflow over the top and fill up the trench that they had dug around. So he wanted to make it less likely that anything would set on fire. And so they get done doing that, and he basically says, Dear God, so that everyone may know that you are the true God, please send fire down from heaven. And fire came down from heaven. And God answered Elijah's prayer. And the prophets of Baal, they didn't follow Baal for all that much longer. Elijah had proven his point that his God was real and that his God listens to prayer. So pray. Pray. Your God is real. Your God is powerful. Your God is listening. Pray. Whatever's on your mind, whatever's in your heart, pray. Tell him about it. Ask for his help. Ask for a specific way for him to help. He may or may not say yes in that specific way, but he will always say yes to doing one particular thing when you pray. He will say yes to answering your prayer in a way that he knows will love you well. He will. Remember, that's why he said no to the prayer that Jesus prayed. Jesus praying in the garden so intensely that he started sweating blood, knowing what was coming, not wanting any part of the cross and the whip and the nails for the same reasons you and I wouldn't, not wanting to feel the weight of the whole world's sins. And I mean, you and I know what it's like to feel the weight just of our own sins. And he was going to feel the whole weight, and he didn't deserve it. And he prayed, "Dear Father, take this cup from me. Let there be another way." And his Father answered that prayer by saying, "No, dear son. They all need to be forgiven. They all need to be my children. They all need to know that I will do anything to love them and be there for them. They need to know that I'm listening, always with love." He is. So pray. And then rest well tonight, my friends.